Good evening, and welcome to the first virtual ABA Death Penalty Representation Project Annual Awards Program. Thank you for gathering with us this evening to acknowledge the efforts of dedicated advocates who zealously represent death row prisoners. While we are only able to single out a few for special recognition this evening, we salute all of you who labor tirelessly to bring justice to those on death row and to better our criminal justice system. The ABA Death Penalty Representation Project appreciates your commitment to representation of these individuals and the challenging issues, constant hurdles, and emotional stress presented in this area of practice. Since 1986, the project has doggedly pursued its mission to improve the quality and availability of legal representation for persons facing possible death sentences or execution. We do this by working to improve the systems that provide legal services to indigent defendants, to educate the bar and public about the crisis of counsel for death row prisoners, and to recruit, train, and support lawyers like you to take on capital post-conviction cases as pro bono counsel. Since its inception, the project and its pro bono partners have represented over 375 prisoners, and 102 clients have had their sentences reduced or vacated. However, for 150 of our clients and many others who are in need of counsel, the struggle is ongoing. The project accomplishes all of this work on a tight budget and through a skeleton staff of 4 mighty social justice warriors who have specialized expertise. Director Emily Olsen-Galt, Project Associate Sylvia Crone, and staff attorneys Callie Heller and Laura Schaefer. We know that many of you and your firms provide financial support to the project in addition to representation, and we are grateful for your continued support in these times. We extend special thanks to our defender-level sponsors, Crowell & Mooring and O'Melveny & Myers, and our champion-level sponsors, Kirkland & Ellis and the Sidley Austin Foundation. In addition to our honorees, we are pleased to have with us this evening as speakers renowned stage and screen actors Richard Schiff and Alfre Woodard from the acclaimed film Clemency, and U.S. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, who will share a few special words. ABA President Trish Rifo will join us to help kick off the program. And finally, the highlights of our program will be performance of a poem by artist Shameaca Moore and remarks from our keynote speaker, death row exoneree Sabrina Butler-Smith. As I'm sure is true for many of you, my week has been overshadowed by the passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Her unflagging dedication to gender equality and civil rights, her work ethic, and her civility have and will continue to inspire us. Justice Ginsburg noted what most of us know all too well, and what motivates many lawyers to take on death penalty cases. She put it bluntly: people who are well represented at trial do not get the death penalty. I have yet to see a death case among the dozens coming to the Supreme Court on eve of executions day applications in which the defendant was well represented at trial. We know that to handle capital cases competently requires vast resources and proper training, not only for the defense attorneys who need to put in hundreds of hours of work, but also for the investigators, the forensic professionals, mitigation specialists, and other experts. And in case after case, we see that the resources necessary to provide capable representation have been lacking. That's where you and the project have come in, to provide some semblance of justice for individuals facing death who are not provided with the caliber of competent counsel envisioned under the Sixth Amendment. We will be recognizing some of you this evening, but we thank each and every one of you who worked to make the promise of justice a reality. Finally, it bears mention that tonight, the federal government plans to execute Christopher Villalba, which will mark the 7th federal execution since July. In 3 months, the federal government will have executed more than twice the number of federal prisoners as in the last 40 years. Excuse me. These difficult developments continue to underscore the importance of your work and your commitment to this cause. We are fortunate to have the inspired leadership of our director, Emily Olsen-Galt, who guides the project with boundless energy, enduring optimism, and compassion. You will hear from Emily now, followed by ABA President Patricia Rifo. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emily Olsen-Galt, Director and Chief Counsel of the ABA Death Penalty Representation Project. For those of you who have joined us in past years at our in-person awards dinner, you know that I normally guide us through the program. This year, we're obviously doing everything just a little bit differently, and that extends to my part of the program as well. Because with some impeccable timing, I am due to deliver a baby the day before this live-streamed event. So I've handed off my virtual mic to our phenomenal steering committee chair, Susie Hoffman. I know you'll be in great hands with Susie, but I also couldn't pass up the opportunity presented by this virtual format to record a few brief remarks to share with you all. I want to express my special appreciation this year for the defenders and pro bono attorneys who have been working on capital cases under some of the worst conditions imaginable. Because of the global pandemic, they've been unable to conduct critical field investigations, arrange for expert evaluations, or even meet with their clients. And yet, at the same time, in many instances, the already short window for filing pleadings has continued to close. They have been unable to stop trials from moving forward, even when unable to be there in person. And some states have continued to carry out executions. What's more, the federal government has resumed executing prisoners for the first time in 17 years and has done so at an unprecedented pace. In addition, the federal government issued an administrative ruling that sharply curtails federal habeas rights for capital prisoners, and state courts have suddenly reversed essential precedent that protected fundamental constitutional rights for capital defendants at trial. Amid all this and much more, the efforts of defense teams to expose injustices in their clients' cases, as well as pervasive systemic issues such as racial bias, have been nothing short of heroic and have often come at great personal cost. These victories are all the more remarkable for having been accomplished under such adverse conditions, and the losses they have suffered have been all the more difficult to bear as it becomes more obvious every day that the system values procedural expediency over due process and rule of law. Win or lose, though, these individuals exemplify the very best of the legal profession, providing strength and hope to their clients, serving as a voice for those who would otherwise be silenced, and exposing most painfully troubling issues in our justice system and our society. This event celebrates those unparalleled contributions, and I thank everyone who has joined us to do the same. Thank you also to our donors and our sponsors who are an essential part of our work. And any achievement that we celebrate, we share with them who have made our work possible. Finally, my sincere congratulations to our 2020 award-winning firms, DLA Piper and Dorsey Whitney, and our John Paul Stevens Guiding Hand of Counsel Award winner, Meaghan VerGow. I have worked with so many of you over the years, and I couldn't be happier to see you recognized for your selfless dedication to this work. Thank you for all you have done to improve the lives of your clients and the legal system, and to inspire others to take up the fight to ensure equal justice for all.
Hello, and welcome to the 2020 Volunteer Recognition and Awards Program of the American Bar Association's Death Penalty Representation Project. Last year, I had the privilege to be with you in person at this event, and this year, unfortunately, we're not able to be together in person, and so I deliver my remarks to you virtually. Nothing tests our commitment to justice and fairness more acutely than the death penalty. And no initiative of the American Bar Association more pointedly stands up for the legal profession's values of justice and fairness than the Death Penalty Representation Project. Thank you to our chair, Susie Hoffman, to the project members, and to our outstanding staff director, Emily Olson-Galt, for all of your hard work, especially in these challenging times, to ensure that our justice system stands up for justice and fairness. And thank you especially for bringing well-deserved recognition to our honorees this year: DLA Piper, Dorsey Whitney, and Meaghan VerGow of O'Melveny and Myers. They inspire our profession and through their work, bring us closer to a more just world. Thank you to all of our honorees for the example that you set for all of us. Every attendee of this ceremony is here because you choose to bear witness to the challenges we face, and not just to bear witness, but to act. You know, the incomparable John Lewis had a wonderful way of expressing it when he said, when you pray, move your feet. That was his way of saying that American lawyers should do what American lawyers have done since we founded this country. We get to work to solve the challenges that we face and together to pursue justice. The ABA is the largest voluntary association of lawyers in the world, and we are a force for equal justice under law, and we have much work to do together. Your participation at this celebration shines a spotlight on what we can do both as lawyers and as citizens. So thank you again to all of you for being here and for all of the critical work that you do to support our profession and to make sure that together we meet America's promise of justice for all.
As Emily mentioned, some pressing prior commitments prevented her from emceeing tonight. Well, we are happy to announce that last Friday, Emily gave birth to a healthy baby boy, John Anders. Congratulations, Emily, from all of us. Before we begin the actual awards presentation, we are thrilled to be joined in celebrating our honorees this evening by two stars from the 2019 film Clemency. Award-winning stage, screen, and television actors Richard Schiff and Alfre Woodard. Over his 40-year career, Richard Schiff appeared in more than 50 films and numerous TV shows, and is perhaps most widely known for his portrayal of White House Communications Director Toby Ziegler in the series The West Wing, for which he won an Emmy. Alfre Woodard has been named one of the most versatile and accomplished actors of her generation, appearing in more than 70 films. She has won 4 Emmy Awards, a Golden Globe, and 3 Screen Actors Guild Awards for her work. Both of these actors brought special sensitivity and humanity into their roles in the film Clemency, which revolves around the emotional toll executions bring on all who are involved in them. Woodard portrays a prison warden, and Schiff portrays the lawyer who has been representing the prisoner for 7 years. We are fortunate to have them share their reflections on the film and its message. After the actors' remarks, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts will join us with some inspiring words of her own.
Hi, my name is Richard Schiff. I am honored to be asked to speak with you tonight. You guys might know me from some television that I've done, Saved by the Bell. You might have, no, I'm just kidding. I did do that show. The West Wing was one, The Good Doctor is another right now, but some of you saw a film that I did recently called Clemency. One of the things I'm most proud of in my career is this film. The fact that I acted the work and the job of what you all do, especially the awardees tonight, Meaghan VerGow and DLA Piper and Dorsey and Whitney. I'm very impressed and in awe of the work that you guys do. I'm just an actor, and the fact that I acted that role and came into contact with the realities of what you do and the people you meet and the heartache of it and the seemingly insurmountable task ahead of you, I came to the understanding that for Marty, that my character's name, for Marty, the best case scenario is that if he wins, his client doesn't die. That's a dark world to live in, and to find the hope and the spirit and the life of that kind of work must be difficult. I come from a family of lawyers. My father, my uncle, my stepfather. So the work that you do, I've been acutely aware of all this time. And to care about each other, to care about life, to devote your free time and much of your working time to pro bono work on behalf of citizens who rely upon that kind of generosity is something that I admire and respect, and I'm very, very thankful for. So I thank you for your work, and I congratulate you on the fact that you do it so well that your peers are awarding you tonight. So from me to you, much love and peace, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's Alfre Woodard here. I hope you and your families are well and that you are finding some moments of peace each day. Thank you for yet another year of answering the highest call of your discipline, lending your hands to our sisters and brothers who have no reach at all. Like most thinking people, I've always considered state-sponsored execution a barbaric ritual that diminishes any society that promotes it or allows it. But my work in Chinonye Chukwu's film Clemency awakened me to a perspective that I feel has been missing from the American discussion of pro and con for decades. It is the voice of those we charge to carry out the killings. You know the devastating effect it has on their lives. We had hoped by opening a window into their reality, our population would understand on an even deeper level how the death penalty robs the life of the accused and their families, how it wreaks havoc in the lives of those who facilitate their deaths, and how it dims the light that should shine out of our cities and towns. Until we come to our civilized senses and stop the assault, I am so grateful for you courageous, generous ones who stand in the breach. We applaud you and we thank you for your watch.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to join you all in virtual community today, to recognize and to celebrate the vital work that you do, to affirm the basic constitutional rights and freedoms of individuals on death row, and really every person in our society. The fact of the matter is, there's always been a difference between what is legal and what is just. And it is that distinction that makes the work of the ABA's Death Penalty Representation Project so critical. When 1 in 25 individuals facing execution is innocent, that is not justice. When Black and brown people represent more than 50% of those currently on death row, that is not justice. And when an administration claims to value the sanctity of life while enforcing a calloused and relentless agenda of executions, that is not justice. It is cruelty. But justice is what we want, justice is what we demand, and justice is what we organize and work for every day. You know, prior to my election to Congress, I served on the Boston City Council for 8 years. At the beginning of every meeting, we would say the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would amend it every single time. And justice for all. Someday. The work you do puts us closer to that someday, every day. You are foot soldiers in the fight for justice, working to ensure that at the very least, every individual facing the death penalty is guaranteed their basic right to counsel and representation at every stage of their case. I know this work is not easy. I know you all bring it home with you, that it wakes you up in the midnight hour. It's not glamorous. It's often thankless, but it is so important. I'm so proud to stand in solidarity with you in this fight. and I'm grateful for your continued partnership as we work to finally make good on that promise of justice for all.
Thank you, Representative Pressley. We appreciate your support for our attorneys to do this important work and for our clients. And now, on to the awards presentations. Our first Exceptional Service Award goes to DLA Piper, a firm that has handled pro bono capital cases for decades, representing death row prisoners in Alabama, Virginia, Texas, Mississippi, and Florida. In addition to its work on individual post-conviction cases, the firm has recently taken on a significant number of amicus briefs, clemency petitions, lethal injection matters, and other research projects to support capital defenders in their work. Since 2017, the firm has contributed over 2,100 hours to this work. DLA's pro bono work on capital cases over the past decades and recent surge in this area reflect its lawyers' commitment to achieving the fair and just operation of the capital defense system in this country. We are proud to honor DLA Piper this evening.
In May of 2019, we were appealing a loss at the Florida Supreme Court to the United States Supreme Court via a petition for certiorari. And we had already asked for an extension of time by the time we realized that maybe it would be really helpful to have amicus briefs. So we were scrambling to find not only the amicis themselves, but a firm to help us write the petitions on behalf of the amicis. So we reached out to DLA Piper, and I was working mostly with Ardith Bronson and Alana Einstein. And it was a last minute Hail Mary thing, and they jumped right in and they did a fantastic job. They rounded up a ton of judges and justices, including people who had been on the Florida Supreme Court, which is where we were appealing from.
And DLA Piper put together an amicus party of former jurists in Florida, and they served as counsel for this group that included former judges of the Florida Supreme Court, former judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, and the Dean of Florida State University Law, all sharply criticizing the Florida Supreme Court's current post-Hearst doctrine. And it was striking that DLA Piper was able to put together a group like that of former jurists and judges who are sort of typically reluctant to criticize their successors or their former court. But DLA Piper wrote a compelling and convincing brief and assembled this fantastic group.
Amicus briefs don't always get the credit that they deserve because they're not the main petition, but in this case, we really thought it was important to have the voices of former judges and justices sort of explain how the Florida Supreme Court has gone awry, and I think they did a really good job, and it was really important to us that it went along with the petition.
The other case that I was involved with in DLA Piper was an amicus brief filed in the Eric Branch case. Eric Branch was a client represented by my office. His was a death warrant case, and we were filing the amicus brief in the U.S. Supreme Court just days before the execution. And for one thing, this meant serious time constraints that I know were not always favored by experienced Supreme Court litigators. But I cannot say enough good things or thank DLA Piper enough for standing with us and Mr. Branch and filing that amicus. And we'll be forever grateful for that. And even though we lost those proceedings and Mr. Branch was executed, I know he himself was truly grateful for his entire extended legal team throughout the warrant, including the amicus brief that DLA Piper filed on the Hearst litigation. And I actually wanted to read a few of Eric's own words about the legal representation he received during the warrant, which included DLA Piper's work. And this is a letter that was addressed to my office, but he's speaking about the broader legal effort. And it's dated the day of his execution, and we received it a few days later. So Eric wrote, "Soon I'll be flying. Before I take off, I want to share my appreciation to the entire combined team. You have earned my everlasting gratitude. I admire everyone's desire to do good in the world and their willingness to reach into the unknown and unfamiliar to lend a hand, not for awards or accolades, but because they wish to make a difference upon people they encounter and contribute to society for the betterment of all. As I splinter into a million atoms, I will carry with me the kindness and generosity you each gave me. Keep giving him hell, Eric Branch, eternally. It really means something to our clients to have firms like DLA Piper standing up for them in defense of their rights. And I encourage other firms to continue to follow DLA Piper's lead in that. So thank you so much to DLA Piper for standing with us in this work.
I'm so honored to accept this award on behalf of DLA Piper. Our death penalty advocacy team could not be more grateful to receive this recognition from the ABA.
On behalf of the lawyers and professionals at DLA Piper, we're incredibly grateful to share the ABA Exceptional Service Award with our friends at Dorsey and Whitney. We're also thrilled to be partners with the ABA and public interest organizations throughout the country in handling pro bono matters for clients with minimal or no resources for legal representation. As a former prosecutor and now as a member of a private law practice, my role, all of our roles as lawyers, are the same: to advance the rule of law, defend liberty, deliver justice. And it's without coincidence that this is also the mission of the American Bar Association.
When I was a kid, I watched several of my close family members shuffle in and out of jail and prison for most of my childhood. And one of my older brothers is still in the prison system here in California today. And as I got older and became more educated, I realized that what was happening to my family wasn't unique, but that Black and brown families across the country were disproportionately affected by the criminal justice system in our country. And I think that the death penalty is one of the starkest examples of how justice can be miscarried in our country. The thought that even one innocent person has been executed or has spent decades on death row is heartbreaking. And then to know that it has happened to numerous people that are on death row. And I think that guilt or innocence aside, it's very important that we give a voice to these members of our society who are often overlooked. And we often don't look at them as complete human beings. We don't think about their stories and the things that happened to them in their lives that led them to make the decisions that they made.
Death penalty work is among the toughest in the legal profession. The strain that these cases put on victims and their families is incalculable. Capital cases are also the ultimate stress test for our system of justice and call all of us as prosecutors, as defense lawyers, as judges to ensure that each case is fairly adjudicated. And if not, then our justice system shouldn't be afraid to right a wrong. That's why DLA Piper is proud to participate in pro bono representations.
While an award for any pro bono work is always an honor, this award, recognizing the work we have done in partnership with the ABA's Death Penalty Representation Project, is the most meaningful of all. That's not an exaggeration. We as lawyers are privileged to be able to use our skills to engage in advocacy that not only has the potential to directly impact a person's very life, but also to hold our justice system accountable for the manner in which it dispenses the ultimate punishment. We do not take this responsibility lightly.
I'm so thankful to work at a firm that allows me to do this work. And I just think that it's such a privilege and an honor, and I'm so glad to be a part of this team.
I want to thank the ABA for giving my colleagues and me the opportunity to contribute in some small way to our joint mission.
Thank you again for the honor of the Exceptional Service Award.
What an incredible record of service to death row prisoners and our criminal justice system. Thank you again to DLA for all your work over the past decades. We are honored to present the second Exceptional Service Award of the evening to Dorsey and Whitney, a firm with a long history of representing prisoners on death row and a prior recipient of the project's Exceptional Service Award in 2011. For almost 40 years, Dorsey has provided representation in post-conviction cases representing 8 individuals. A recent success in one of its cases is particularly compelling. The firm represented Bruce Webster an intellectually disabled man on death row since 2008. After years of protracted litigation in federal district and appellate courts, Mr. Webster was declared to be intellectually disabled and categorically ineligible for the death penalty. His sentence was vacated in June of 2019. Just 2 days ago, the team achieved another victory with the Seventh Circuit affirming relief. A letter in support of the firm's nomination describes the true dedication and brilliance of the Dorsey team, led by Steve Wells. Steve and his colleagues took a hopeless case and turned it around. They went above and beyond their initial plans, persevered despite the odds, and made great law for our community. As is clear from this case and the others handled by the firm, Dorsey lawyers and staff have fought tirelessly for the lives of their clients.
I want to congratulate Dorsey and Whitney for receiving the Death Penalty Project's Exceptional Service Award. The law firm is highly deserving of this award, with Dorsey and Whitney's representation of death row prisoners going back more than 3 decades. This is actually the second time that Dorsey and Whitney has received this award, which I think shows their extraordinary commitment to doing pro bono work in capital cases.
I met Steve Wells and the Dorsey team in 2008, and that should give you some sense of the breadth of their commitment in this case. Dorsey came on to represent Bruce Webster, a federal death row prisoner convicted and sentenced out of Texas. When they came on, all of Bruce's appeals were over, essentially, and they agreed to do a clemency on his behalf. That's where they started. And the first thing that the Dorsey team did was exemplified their incredible work, and that is that they didn't leave the case where they found it, but they went and reinvestigated. And what they found was gold and changed this case forever.
It takes hardworking lawyers, paralegals, and staff members to do the investigation, to do the work, and to show, for example, that a death row client is in fact ineligible for the death penalty because of that inmate's intellectual disabilities.
They went and found documents which show that prior to this crime, 3 government doctors from the Social Security Administration had found Bruce to be intellectually disabled. These documents had never been seen by any judge or any jury. So the next thing that showed what a good team this was is that they were willing to collaborate. And they came to us and talked about what could we do? And we worked with them about what could you do besides clemency with this wonderful information that you had. And so Steve and Kirsten Schubert and Kay Johnson and the rest of the team, they switched strategies on a dime, and they instead followed and pursued a legal strategy, not just clemency.
The work that we've done on Bruce Webster's death penalty case is one of the things of which I'm most proud. And this award means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to the rest of our team.
Bruce Webster is my longest client, and his case is the most rewarding of my career. I was a new associate at Dorsey when we took Bruce's case in 2008. We were retained for a relatively short-term project, submit a clemency petition. If we knew one thing that first day, it was that Bruce is intellectually disabled, and executing him would be a clear violation of the Constitution. We had no way of knowing that 12 years later, we would still be fighting.
If it wasn't for the efforts of Dorsey kind of continuing to pound this and push this along for 10 years, I mean, who knows what could have happened to him being an inmate on death row.
And what they have done is groundbreaking work. They litigated in Indiana, they litigated in Texas, they litigated at the Supreme Court, which culminated last month in a terrific argument by Steve at the Seventh Circuit.
It was only through the commitment and determined efforts of Dorsey and Whitney that after years of litigation in federal district and appellate courts, and after uncovering new evidence, that Dorsey's client was declared to be intellectually disabled and therefore ineligible for the death penalty.
I will forever cherish the moment that we told Bruce that his death sentence had been vacated. The hope that Bruce maintained, even after years of losses, is a big part of what inspired me to keep going. And I'm so proud that we did keep going and that we managed to carve a new path for post-conviction relief through a case that has literally spanned my entire career.
I think it's important that lawyers continue to do the work of this kind. I mean, because it's, for at least for us folks in big law, we don't have as many opportunities to change the course of someone's life the way we sort of did with Mr. Webster. But also because there are so many people in the world, in our country, in our states, in our counties, in our cities that continue to sort of slip through the cracks and just don't have access to the legal system. And I'm, working for a firm and with a team of incredible people, we do have access to the judicial system. We do have the knowledge to navigate it. We do have the resources to navigate it for as long and as hard as we need to navigate it. So I think that's why it's important. I mean, we can't let opportunities like this slip by us, and we can't just not do this sort of work if we are presented with the opportunity.
I don't think that I can talk about Bruce's case, though, without acknowledging that the federal government has executed 5 men in the past several weeks and has scheduled more executions in the weeks to come. I can talk about creativity and perseverance, but as we've watched our colleagues in this work fight until the literal last minute to try to stop the executions of their clients, we know that's not enough to succeed in this system. I can talk about maintaining hope in the face of insurmountable odds, but we're working within a system in which stays are lifted in the middle of the night and executions are completed by morning. What I find so inspiring about this work is the community of lawyers that knows this and still maintains hope and keeps finding new ways to fight for our clients, even when the chances of success are infinitesimal. Because we know that our clients deserve to have someone fight for them, and because we believe that a more just system is possible. I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity over the past 11 years to be a part of that, and I look forward to carrying on that work in the years to come.
Sister Helen Prejean said, "People are more than the worst thing they've done in their lives." I've learned the truth of that simple statement in representing death row defendants for 20 years. What sticks with me most about this work are not the intellectual challenges or the courtroom dramas, of which there have been many, but the humanity of our clients. And as I look back over the years, I'm awed by the dedication and skill and unflinching tenacity of the many Dorsey lawyers, past and present, who've been so essential to the winning work we've done for our death row clients. On behalf of Dorsey Whitney, thank you for this award.
And now we have a special guest.
I want to congratulate Dorsey, a place I loved and worked at for many years, and Steve Wells. And I think what's so amazing about the work you've done and the reason you're getting this award is you didn't just do one case. You've been doing this before it was cool and taking on the really difficult cases and made a difference in so many people's lives. So thanks and congratulations. How was that?
Very good.
Okay.
What an amazing victory for Mr. Webster. That was a truly inspiring presentation. Steve, we are so fortunate to have you and Dorsey as longtime partners in this fight for justice. Before making our final awards presentation and hearing from our keynote speaker, Sabrina Butler-Smith, we will hear some inspiring words from Shameaca Moore, who has been called a poet's poet. Shameaca, who hails from Columbus, Ohio, has been writing since the age of 12, performing since age 15, and since age 16 has been competing against adults at poetry slams. At age 17, Shameaca was awarded a 4-year full tuition urban arts scholarship to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. While there, she co-wrote a 2-woman show, Failing with an A. Since then, she's continued to create and has traveled the country sharing her work. We are fortunate that she has included us in her virtual travels and will share some of her words with us this evening.
Whether or not I believe in God, I understand I am not God. I understand I cannot understand everything. My friend Alan murdered his date 2 nights after giving me a ride home. Our previous conversations were red flags I was not qualified to treat. He was sweet. Actually, the sweetest man I know. He took military requirements, lack of respect from peers, a divorce, custody battle, car troubles, eviction notice, homelessness, helplessness, hopelessness, like a champ. As a woman who looked like me was found severed into pieces blocks away from Alan's apartment, he jumped from the bridge of a freeway, guilt eating him alive. He didn't die. However, the handcuffs to the hospital bed screamed death penalty. The victim's family understandably shouted it loudest, but death? To the Alan who gifted my favorite food when family issues stole my appetite, death? To the Alan who avoided conflict like folks in our hood avoid the police, a peacemaker of every group, death? To the Alan with the calmest disposition, kindest soul, much kinder than me, 12-year-old memories of the most helpful, unprovoked, go with the flow man I know destroyed, or at least now all questionable. The moment his right mind clocked out early and his heaviest demons took over the shift, death. I wonder who I'd be if my teachers didn't take me in as their own, didn't notice the darkness in my home, the weariness in my eyes under fluorescent classroom lights. I wonder exactly how many good miles my mind had before a crash, before the breakdown Alan's did. He wrote me the whole story like the narrator of a novel he never wanted to be a part of in a 7-page front and back letter I could only read once. But whether or not I believe in God, I understand I am not God. I understand I cannot understand everything. Whether or not I believe in God, I do believe in the boomerang. That is mercy. That is clemency. Alan still calls me. When I'm not too down, too busy, too horrified imagining how my family would feel 2 nights before if it were me, I still answer. It's always the same Alan I recall. You can hear his genuine smile as he discusses cleaning the chapel, talking a fellow inmate down from anger, making a mean guard laugh, rereading Proverbs and Psalms. Whether or not I believe in God, Alan does. And Alan would call his defense attorney an overworked angel, his escape from capital punishment a miracle, his 25 to life sentence a second chance, his time in penitentiary deserved and dedicated to serving others. Alan would want me to thank God for you, refusing to become such, for you, finding his life worth keeping, even when he couldn't. Thank you. Thank you.
Shameaca, thank you for sharing that lovely performance with us. And now for presentation of our John Paul Stevens Guiding Hand Award to Meaghan VerGow, a partner at O'Melveny & Myers. As is true with so many of our dedicated pro bono counsel, Meaghan's full-time practice is not in the area of criminal law, but rather focuses on commercial litigation. But that has not stopped her from advocating brilliantly and zealously in this area. Meaghan has long been deeply committed to capital punishment work, a dedication reflected in her impressive body of pro bono death penalty cases. Indeed, Meaghan has represented 4 prisoners on death row in addition to authoring amicus briefs in capital cases. Her efforts have broken new ground, including a case that culminated in a rare unanimous victory at the US Supreme Court in Ayanna versus Davis, and have helped shape the public discourse around the death penalty. While the results that she achieves are impressive, her passion for and dedication to the work are what truly set her apart. As one nominator noted, Meaghan does this work because it is her passion, because she believes it is her calling, and because she understands it is a lawyer's most important responsibility. She knows that her work is a matter of life and death, and she treats it that way every day.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paul Stepnowski. It is my honor and privilege to speak to you today on behalf of Meaghan VerGow, who is being honored with the John Paul Stevens Guiding Hand of Counsel Award. I came to work with Meaghan somewhat by accident and somewhat by chance. I decided to say yes to an email blast where she was looking for help on one pro bono project. I thought I would be helping out for a few hours a week. This was before I knew much about the details, or the case, or Meaghan's dedication. And as they say, the rest is history. What I thought was one case turned into two. What I thought was one brief turned into many. I am very fortunate for that.
On Saturday, November 21st, 2015, Meaghan and I sat next to each other in DC's 18th Street Lounge. We didn't really know each other, although we met briefly before. We were celebrating the promotion and tenure of a mutual friend. We engaged in some chit-chat, the what you doing now stuff typical of these types of encounters. She told me that she was at O'Melveny and then asked what I did, and I mentioned that I was active in the Capitol defense community. She put her drink down and said, reach out if I can help. I told her to be careful because I follow up, and I laughed it off. Now, I don't know how many times I've had that conversation, and the result has been an unreturned message or email, or a pained response explaining that the firm can't make it work because of bad PR, or they cannot make it work because of the need to steer associate hours elsewhere. They cannot make it work because the partner really wants to help, but just can't otherwise secure institutional support. But when I called Meaghan with the Texas death penalty case in desperate need of help, she answered and then took the case. And then she came through when our clients needed it again, and then again.
Meaghan VerGow is a brilliant attorney and an unparalleled role model. It has been my honor to work under her direction for the last several years, seeking to lift the death sentence of our intellectually disabled client. And it is an honor to recognize her tireless advocacy in capital cases and to celebrate her achievements for these clients today. As is the case with all capital cases, our work together is an uphill battle. Our client should never have received his death sentence, but the legal system was built to enforce that sentence, even where wrongly imposed. Yet Meaghan did not hesitate to take on this challenge, and she does not waver in her representation.
Meaghan's kindness and compassion, as well as her sense of fairness and justice, is a part of her excellent writing, her discussions with her clients, and the leadership of her teams.
She came through when our clients needed help in the Supreme Court and came through when they needed help in proceedings that nobody would ever know about. She came through when our clients needed speed and when they needed skill and when they needed resources. To do what Meaghan does requires commitment, and it requires institutional savvy, and it requires aptitude. Across my 15 years of experience in this space, Meaghan's commitment to capital punishment work is on par with those of our very strongest allies in the private bar. Her institutional instincts are in many respects without equal. She directs massive human and financial resources to our clients, but ensures the firm remains receptive to ongoing requests from our community.
She is simply tireless. Her strategy is always astute, and her work ethic is unmatched. In the midst of trial, during which she was extraordinarily ill, unfortunately, she was nonetheless able to pass an endless stream of brilliant Post-it notes across counsel's table at a moment's notice. There is no one better at counsel's table. In the midst of stress and questionable tactics from the other side, she taught her team to remain unflappable. She taught her team how to show respect for a victim's family and yet remain steadfast in our representation. She taught her team how to see the humanity in her clients, to show them compassion when few have, and to handle the emotional complexity of the case with incredible poise. She has taught me how to strive to be a thoughtful mentor to make everyone on the team feel valued and important. Finally, she has taught her team how to fight for a client who some think is unworthy of the services of a big law firm. Indeed, some question why a firm's vast resources would be marshaled in support of someone who made such a big mistake. But she has taught our team that that is precisely why we should fight for him, with no less energy and devotion than if the fate of the firm's most important paying client rested in our hands.
She is one of the 3 or 4 most talented lawyers that I have ever encountered, period. We all know that we do our work as a community, and different people in that community have different roles, and we're all better for Meaghan's presence in it.
I am lucky to consider her a mentor and friend. Congratulations, Meaghan, on this much-deserved award.
Thank you, Meaghan, for the opportunity to learn from you and to represent our client together. and congratulations on your well-deserved recognition.
Thank you very much to the ABA Death Penalty Representation Project for this great honor. I was really surprised to get this award, candidly, because I've seen a lot of terrific capital practitioners in action, and I can tell you I'm pretty early on the learning curve when it comes to these cases. I also feel like I've only just begun my contribution to this area, or at least that there's so much left to do that what little I've done seems pitiable. But I thank you at any rate, and I'm grateful for this encouragement to keep at it. I'd like to use this time to give credit where it's really due, to the experienced capital attorneys who've shared their wisdom with me over the years, as well as the O'Melveny teams who've labored to obtain justice for our clients. 20 years ago, when I was a law student, I saw Bryan Stevenson speak, and his words hit me in the gut. The next summer, I was living in Montgomery, Alabama, following Kathleen Price around like a puppy, and watching Bryan argue Anthony Ray Hinton's innocence to an Alabama state court. It took another dozen years for Mr. Hinton to be released, by the way, a reminder that this work is as much about tenacity as it is about being right. In recent years, I've been fortunate to work alongside experienced practitioners who've mastered the law and the best ways to navigate through it. People like Lee Kowarski, Sherry Lynn Johnson, Jared Tyler, Alicia Amezcua Rodriguez, Kate Black, not to mention Kelly Heller, and the investigators we've worked with at Texas Defender Service. They bring incomparable knowledge and strategic thinking to our cases. They've kept me from making stupid mistakes countless times, mistakes graver even than discussing the constitutional deficiency of state habeas counsel. I have personally grown as a lawyer in our collaborations, and I'm indebted to them for their patience and commitment to our work together. At O'Melveny, our capital cases are sustained by the dedication of our attorneys and the steadfast support of the firm. Lawyers like Paul Stepnowski and Megan Hapstad have led huge teams that have worked around the clock to investigate habeas claims, craft Supreme Court briefs, and try Atkins applications. These lawyers are enormously talented, but they're also simply willing to put in the long, difficult, all-consuming work that a capital representation requires. The capital teams I've been a part of here have spent tens of thousands of hours on our cases. It's an extraordinary achievement and a credit to O'Melveny, which has not blanked when I've come asking for time, as well as financial support for our work. Our clients are human beings whose humanity is being denied. They are invariably sentenced to death in an imperfect system, a system that is capable of ensnaring the innocent, a system that can mete out death sentences based on the quality of the representation received, a system that brings into sharp relief the biases, prejudices, and racial and economic inequities that pervade our society as a whole. I am called to this work because I believe lawyering can make a difference in that system. It's not a complete solution, but it is a necessary part of achieving justice. James Baldwin famously said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." We face our imperfect system in hopes of transforming it into something just and fair. Thanks to the ABA for standing with us.
Meaghan, congratulations again, and thank you from all of us for your inspired leadership in this area. We will now turn to our keynote speaker this evening, exonerated death row prisoner and advocate for criminal justice system reform, Sabrina Butler-Smith. Miss Butler-Smith lived a nightmare. One night in April 1989, when she was only 17 years old, her 9-month-old son, Walter, stopped breathing and died. Less than 24 hours after his death, she was charged with capital murder and child abuse. At her first trial, Sabrina's state-appointed lawyer called not one witness in her defense. She was convicted and sentenced to death at the age of 18. But thanks to the efforts of civil rights attorneys who took on her appeal, her conviction was overturned and remanded for a new trial. On December 17, 1995, nearly 6 years after being wrongfully convicted and sentenced to death, a jury acquitted Sabrina of all charges. She is the first of only 2 female death row exonerees in the United States. Sabrina now lives in Memphis with her husband and 3 thriving children and works with the nonprofit organization Witness to Innocence to raise awareness about wrongful convictions. She speaks as often as she can to the public and media about her story and also works with state governments to change legislation regarding the death penalty. We are honored to have her with us this evening to share her story and insights. We do want to note that in Sabrina's remarks, there are some minor audio disruptions, but just for the first few minutes of the video.
My name is Sabrina Butler, and I want to talk to you concerning my case. I was charged with capital murder in the course of child abuse in 1989 for the death of my son in Columbus, Mississippi. I was living in an apartment complex there, and I stayed there for only 4 months. And when I moved into these apartments, no one knew me. I didn't have a phone or a car. I was only 17 years old. But this particular day, I decided that I wanted to go jogging. I put my son to sleep, and I put him in his bed, and I left the house and jogged up to the end of the street. When I got back, I went to the kitchen to get him a bottle and went in his room and noticed that he wasn't breathing. And automatically I panicked because I didn't know, what to do. So I ran to the different apartment complexes trying to get someone to help me. And the first lady that came out, she wouldn't help me. She said that her children were in bed and she didn't have time. So she closed the door in my face, and that left me trying to just scream and holler to get anyone that I could listen to me, help me with my son. So when I got downstairs, I finally got this lady who grabbed my son. She took him into her apartment, put him on the floor, and she started CPR. I ran out to try to get someone else to help me. And when I finally found someone, I ran back in, and she told me to hold his nose, blow in his mouth, and press in his stomach. But later I found out that I applied adult CPR to a 9-month-old all the way to the hospital. I was scared to death. I didn't know what to do. I had never done CPR before, and it was horrible. I tried to do what I could to get him to breathe, but that was one of the hardest things to go through in my life because, I didn't know what was wrong. So when I got to the hospital, they took him from me and carried him in the back, and the emotions and the feelings that I had at the time was that, man, you are in trouble. You're in trouble for this. You should have not left your children, your son at the house by himself. That was the first thing came to my mind. But to be charged with murder was far beyond anything that I could have thought about. But I knew that, it was wrong for leaving him at the house by himself. So I said to myself that I couldn't be honest. I had to lie. So that's what I did. When they asked me questions, I just made up all kind of things. And, my stories were different stories. So when I left the hospital, I went home. I was just a mess. I couldn't imagine what was going on. I didn't know what to think. I was there alone, didn't have anybody, my mom, nobody, because I had been in Columbus on my own since I was 14 years old. I had an older son who was with his grandparents, and I only had my younger son at the time. So when I got up the next morning, I couldn't wait to try to get to the hospital to see what an autopsy report would say, but not knowing that it takes a while for them to determine the cause of death. So when I got there, the detectives were there, and they took me back down they wanted to take me to the police station. They got me to the police station, and they started questioning me. When they started questioning me, they just started screaming and yelling, and they were saying, "You beat your baby, you stomped him, this is what you did." And I had nobody there to help me, no parents, no nothing, never been interrogated like that before. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. This interrogation went on for 4 hours. They kept saying, you murdered your baby. This is what you did. And at first, I was crying and screaming. I was trying to tell them, actually what happened. They didn't want to hear that. So the main detective, he wrote the statement out and shoved it in my face and told me to sign it. And my last ditch effort to show that I didn't commit a crime, I signed it at the bottom of the page. That's what I did. I didn't sign where he told me to, hoping that someone would see, that this was all wrong. After they charged me with capital murder, they put me in the county jail. When I went to the county jail, I sat in the county jail a whole year before I even saw my attorneys. I saw my attorneys 2 days before trial. And they didn't give me no preparation, didn't tell me, what I should be doing or anything like that. So I didn't know what to do. I just was told to sit and look at the jury. So when I got to the court system, only thing at that age, being 18, I was 18 by then, I noticed that the jury was not a jury of my peers. They were more concerned with what the district attorney had to say as opposed to what my attorneys. Every time my attorney stood up and tried to give a description and tell them what had happened in my case, they were unconcerned. They were looking on the floor. They were looking at the ceiling. They was looking around like, just completely ignoring. And I knew myself then that my life was over. I just felt it because, here I am, African-Americans, poor, sitting in this courtroom with a jury that didn't look like me. I just knew it. And that's exactly what happened. My attorneys didn't call up any witnesses in my case. All the witnesses that I did have were subpoenaed by the district attorney and locked in rooms and never called to testify. So I received the death penalty. I was sentenced to die March the 13th of 1990. My death date was July the 2nd of 1990. And when I made it to death row, I was 19 years old. Having to go inside of a place that I never thought I would see in my lifetime, innocent, made it 10 times worse. To be put on death row and accused of killing your own child is one of the worst things that can happen to anyone. I sat on death row 2 years, 9 months, no human contact, and it was horrible. I went through a lot, but the worst part of that was my death date came, which was July the 2nd of 1990, and I did not know that the state had to exhaust all state remedies before they could carry out a death sentence. No one told me that. So that was the day that I paced the floors. I thought that my life was over because I did not know. It was another girl at the time that was on death row with me. She, me and her got to be friends through the toilet on the floor. That's how I found out who she was. And she started talking to me, and it's sad when another inmate has to tell you legal proceedings. That was crazy. But even though the first attorneys that I had did not do what they should have done in my case, I ended up with 2 sets of death row pro bono attorneys who were magnificent. They came in, my case was overturned. They found out that my son had heart problems, kidney problems, and chronic bowel syndrome. It was nothing that I did to cause his death. I just didn't know how to do CPR. They were awesome. And in cases, I think that is the main component to a case when you have a defendant, someone that's, on trial for their life. And if it had not been for Clive Stafford Smith or Rob McDuff, I don't know where I would be. I probably wouldn't be alive today talking to you. My case, it was a horrible experience, and I don't wish that on anyone. And I try to speak as much as I can. I work with this organization called Witness to Innocence, and we're all death row exonerees who have been taken from our homes and damn near killed for crimes we never committed. And in those cases, we had good lawyers who finally came in and took on the role of helping us to free ourselves. And that's basically what my case is about. It made me be the first woman in the United States ever to be exonerated from death row. I no longer live in Mississippi. I moved to Memphis. And I'm here now, and I currently work with the people here in Memphis too as well, to try to show some light or gain light onto the injustices we face within the death penalty. And that is my story.
Thank you, Sabrina, for sharing that difficult and moving story with us. Your presentation reminds us why we do this work. Congratulations to all of our honorees this evening. We are grateful for your enduring commitment, compassion for your clients, and belief that together we can improve our criminal justice system. Thank you for all you do. We could not possibly close this evening's events without recognizing the tremendous work of those who I have dubbed our social justice warriors. The project's director, Emily Olsen-Galt, staff attorneys Callie Heller and Laura Schaefer, and project associate Sylvia Crone. In addition to fighting in the trenches on a daily basis for justice, they were also instrumental in crafting today's program and reinventing it as a virtual program, which was no easy feat, believe me. Finally, our thanks go to our litigation section liaison, Koji Fukumara, and my steering committee members for their leadership and support. Last but not least, this program would not have been possible without the leadership of Chris Hoderman and his production team at Prime 312. Thank you, Chris. I want to close with a few more words from Justice Ginsburg that I think says a lot about those who we have recognized this evening and who seem to have taken the justice's words to heart, even if they never actually heard them. For those who are not involved in capital case representation or other pro bono work, I hope that these words will inspire you to use your legal skills to do so. When asked what makes a meaningful life, Justice Ginsburg replied, to put it simply, it means doing something outside yourself. I tell law students, if you are going to be a lawyer and just practice your profession, you have a skill, very much like a plumber. But if you want to be a true professional and will do something outside yourself, something that makes life a little better for people less fortunate than you. Thank you for making time to join us this evening to recommit to providing justice to those on death row. Stay tuned for additional information on how you can get involved with the project and its work. And please stay safe and take good care.